So, hello to everyone. We would like to start our today's event that is called Discussion, Journalistic Activity in Wartime, Challenges, Dilemmas and Solutions of Ukrainian Newsrooms. Our event that is held today is held under the project Media and Media Literacy in Wartime, Building Up Media Resilience, that is implemented by the Center for Democracy and Build of Law, together with the Project Filter at the Ministry of Culture and Strategic Communications of Ukraine, with the partnership with UNESCO and supported by Japan. And we will start our event with the opening remarks, and I would like to invite to speak the first, Ms. Teresa Horbacher, Project Officer, the UNESCO Office in Ukraine.
Thank you so much. I'm really sorry. I've been living in Ukraine for nearly 2 years now, but my Ukrainian still is very bad. So I'm going to have to speak to you in English. So my name is Teresa Korbacher. I'm the coordinator for UNESCO's work on press freedom, access to information, media and information literacy here in Ukraine. It's a real pleasure to welcome you all today. Your presence as journalists, editors, and media professionals speaks to a shared commitment to producing the best possible journalism for the Ukrainian public. According to the World Economic Forum, for the second year in a row, mis- and disinformation is listed as the highest short-term risk. This is alongside other risks such as climate change, armed conflict, social polarization, and cyber threats, underlining the broad impact across societies of mis- and disinformation. UNESCO continues to address this challenge through its global mandate on media and information literacy. Our goal is to support individuals in developing the ability to critically assess information, verify sources, and to make informed decisions in complex and fast-changing information environments. In Ukraine, this work has taken on particular importance. The information landscape has become increasingly complex, with a high volume of both verified but also unverified content. At the same time, as we all see on a daily basis, we are targeted by disinformation campaigns. In this context, UNESCO has prioritized support to Ukrainian citizens and media professionals to strengthen their media and information literacy competencies and build long-term resilience to misleading content. As another activity, UNESCO has also developed 7 simple rules of media and information literacy, offering straightforward, effective guidance. These tools are designed to support both the general public and media professionals in evaluating information critically and consistently. However, one of the key focus areas of our work has been journalists in Ukraine, offering practical advice, ethical considerations, and examples directly drawn from newsroom experience. So together with CEDEM and with your active involvement, we have collected specific cases of such ethical dilemmas. This document is intended as a resource to support your ongoing work, not only in war times, but as part of the broader commitment to professional, informed, and responsible journalism. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you and CEDEM for your continued participation in these efforts. Your contributions have been instrumental in shaping tools and approaches that are practical and relevant in your daily practice. Thank you so much, and I really look forward to the discussion today.
Дякую, Терезо.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for the support that you personally, as well as UNESCO, are providing to Ukraine, to Ukrainian professionals, to Ukrainian media organizations. Now, I would like to give the floor to the opening remark, the director of the Center for Democracy and Rule of Law. Hello, everybody, dear participants of our today's event, physically, and those who have joined us online. On behalf of the team of CEDEM, as I would like to express my gratitude to Teresa, as well as all other those who managed to be involved in this beautiful product that will be presented today. we are speaking about the practical handbook, Journalistic Activity in Wartime, Challenges, Dilemmas and Solutions of Ukrainian Newsrooms. In fact, this our event is actually the final event within a larger scale our project on national media literacy. We are developing the resilience of the society, and for a number of the months we have we have worked together with both national and regional media in order to consider those challenges that the media are facing daily in the conditions of hybrid information war. But we not only consider the challenges, but we also looked for the solutions, to check those solutions that have been developed already by the newsrooms that could be useful for all media across Ukraine, and we are sure that these developments that will be also discussed today as well as presented, they will be not only just a tool for the practical activities, but this would also become a kind of this would also become a baseline to start revising the editorial policies, because I know that all who participated in the development of this product, they have updated, changed their editorial policies in order to make their content more in line with their present day challenges, conditions in which Ukrainian media journalists have to work in the wartime. And to some extent, this experience has been already reflected in this handbook. And would like also to point out that this product, it is created by media for media. This is one specific feature of this product, because it has been developed by involving the experts, lawyers, journalists, fact checkers, so many of those who have done this by out of their own experience for their colleagues. And would like to thank to the representatives of those media who were co-creators of this product. This is also the team of Snidanok 1++1, Bucha City, Fifth Channel, Rayon UA, the First Zaporizhia, Prorivne, TRK Kyiv, Ukrainska Pravda. I would like to thank you for your contribution into this work for all these months. And I would like also to call up everyone to be involved in the discussion, to share your experience, because this is your experience that you have gained, and also what you have changed in your editorial policies in response of what you have created. So I think it would be very important to share your experience with other media. I would like also to thank to the CEDEM team, filter team, to our UNESCO partners for their participation, for their inclusiveness in these opportunities, for your professional approach. And personally, I'm very grateful to our armed forces of Ukraine for daily, every second defense that allows everyone to work in her sphere of activity. So thanks everyone, and a fruitful work for us today. Thanks, Olesya. And one more partner of our today's event is National Media Literacy Project Filter. Please, Olga Kravchenko. Thanks. Welcome to everyone. First of all, I'm very pleased that in November we started this work very actively, and today we have almost to the end this great final product that will be implemented, is being implemented in the newsrooms. This is a great creative development, and I'm sure that this product will be useful both for you and for your colleagues. It could be shared with other newsrooms. I would like also to thank to UNESCO Bureau as well as CEDEM for this our cooperation, for this is our work that we have done for all this period. This was both in the terms of developing this handbook as well as the trainings regarding the artificial intelligence literacy that also involved journalists, and specifically conditions when media literacy is so important, taken into account this our very complicated environment. It's great that we continue to join our effort. We continue to create necessary products, and I think Ukraine in this aspect could remain a flagship, working against those misinformation and presenting the best practices developed. And the handbook itself, I think a lot in this handbook is related also with the issue of aggression of Russia against Ukraine, and a lot of dilemmas have been described. But what I support, what is I think is very important, is also the chapter dedicated to the coverage of the governmental bodies activities, sociological studies. I think this is a rather universal part that would be relevant for many years, even after the war. So I think it would be very interesting to listen today to our today's discussion, and I would like to thank also the newsrooms who have contributed to this work, as well as to the National Literacy Project field, and this is important for us as the project to collaborate with our journalism community, as both with Suspilne mowlення, as well as other national and regional media, and we can create this kind of interesting products and scale them so that they be spread across the entire society. Thanks a lot, Olga. And after these opening remarks, we finally start our work and discussion of the document itself. The document which title is Practical Handbook, Journalistic Activity in Wartime, Challenges, Dilemmas and Solutions of Ukrainian Newsrooms. And I would like to invite Tetyana Semiletko, media literacy trainer, lawyer, team decision-making facilitator, to present this handbook. So, welcome to everyone. I would like to start the content part. I would like to tell you in brief what is this handbook for, what is its content, for whom it has been prepared, and with whom together we have collected all these practices and solutions. We have here this presentation, so I'll be telling you, but just in brief. If we say for whom and what is the purpose of creating this handbook, first of all, we wanted to provide practical focuses, guides, to collect best practices, maybe not so ideal, maybe not already transformed into axioms, but we would like to show the practical solutions, both editorial as well as management, for journalists, for editors, for correspondents. I am also sure that this handbook would be also very significant for media managers, because it also includes some management solutions, how to act in certain situations when decision-making process should be done, taking into account the wartime conditions, as well as the challenges caused by the state-of-art technology. So we are speaking about the impact of artificial intelligence on the processing of content, as well as the social network and anonymous internet sources. So in terms of the content, what is the content of this handbook? We do hope that it would become a kind of actual guidance. Maybe it will be also updated, it could be modified in the future, but in any way we call everyone, you, journalists, editorial staff, to consider it, to look through it, and to present it to your staff. First of all, we have collected those challenges that exacerbated during the war. We have presented recommendations, advices that refer, for instance, to arrest, detentions of Ukrainian citizens in the temporarily occupied territories, or, for instance, to those changes that refer to the sexual abuse related to war, or cases with the collaboration with the people who were trauma affected, cases when you have to communicate with the people who are suffering, who are grieving, and maybe that would be also useful for photo correspondents, not only just correspondents, journalists or editors. And of course we have presented the subject of unauthorized absence from their military forces in order not to play to Russian propaganda. We also have collected the solutions related to the artificial intelligence so that newsrooms may use AI tools responsibly and at high quality level. And of course, social networks that are both the sources of information, we can't forget about them. That's why all our participants, all the interviews have shared their practices when some information appears in social networks for some anonymous or unverified sources or from opinion leaders, bloggers, but this information requires an additional fact-checking. In fact, our handbook is focused, first of all, on fact-checking technologies, verification of the information, but not only. It covers also a lot of ethic issues and how to balance, how to observe professional standards and ethics in such a work. Finally, we have collected also the practices of covering the governmental bodies activities when when somebody say built, presented, repaired. When we speak about this kind of official bureaucratic vocabulary used by the governmental officials, we are speaking also about the ways of manipulating the public opinion by officials or even manipulating of journalists. We also present the examples how to cover, how to present the findings of the sociological studies to make these studies presented in its context, not just clickbait findings, but the actual findings. And in these terms, we may consider now those management practices that we have collected thanks to collaboration with our newsrooms, professionals, journalists. And we first of all speak how a media should act when it is under, for instance, external pressure, the trial courts, how to act in this kind of crisis situations, how to communicate, so how to use this crisis kind of communication. Also, we have included the practices how to avoid clickbait, and we present good examples that could be followed. And ultimately, this is a dedicated part of the handbook. Upon the request of our journalists, we have also collected threats in terms of cybersecurity. They are relevant today. This is not just a website attack. This is also an attack on the social network. These are, for instance, phishing emails, for instance, when your email has been hacked, or if you are informed by Facebook administration that your Facebook profile has been blocked. So how to act in these kind of situations, very practical recommendations. And finally, we also added a step-by-step guidance on fact-checking of video and photo materials. We are speaking about video files, deep fake. I think it could be useful both for your new staff as well as for those who work constantly in this sphere and assemble the material. We have also presented the examples of the best, about 12 editorial policies, starting from the BBC editorial policies up to the editorial policies of our Ukrainian media that, for instance, update their provisions regarding the AI, so to use it transparently, that ethically and at high quality level. And these editorial policies have been updated after the start of the war, so some of the challenges have been already reflected in them. But we also call on other media to make their editorial policies public, to open. Maybe a kind of grievance mechanism should be added. Also, upon the request of the participants of our project, we have added also the contacts of those organizations that could be useful for them in their activities. For instance, these are human right-defending organizations, for instance, organizations that deal with providing psychological support to vulnerable categories of Ukrainian, those who suffered sexual abuse due to the conflict, those that work with the war-affected, liberated from the captivity, as well also the contacts of fact-checking organizations, those organizations that deal with media literacy development, as well as the organizations that could be addressed in case you face dilemmas related to ethics and professional standards that you can resolve by yourself, as well as the organizations that can help you if you face cybersecurity challenges. If, for instance, something has been hacked or the domain does not work anymore, there are any threats for your profile. So this is a really living handbook, and we hope that you will be able to use it and you will see its value both for internal in-house training as well as to use it to revise your editorial policies. Thank you. Thank you, Tetyana, for your presentation of the handbook. And first, before we start the discussion, I would like to recall and to thank all the authors who were involved in developing the text. I would like also to point out this document was developed in cooperation with Olga Krupnyk, Editor-in-Chief Espresso TV, Ihor Rozkladai, Deputy Director, Chief Expert on Media Law of CDM, Tetyana, Nota Iryna, and against Tetyana Semiletko, who has just made the presentation, and Iryna Subota, Project Manager, Center for Democracy and Rule of Law. The reviewers of this document were Tetyana Troshinska, journalist, speaker, media manager, Department for Strategic Analysis and Development of Socially Influential Content, Olena Rymovska, a journalist, author, and host of the Project Rymovsky Interview, Suspilne Noviny YouTube channel, and Diana Dudek, Executive Director of non-governmental organization, Ukrainian Institute for Media and Communication. Ukrainian newsrooms participated also in the development of this handbook. The full list will be presented later. Now I suggest to start our discussion, not following the list that has been declared, but following your wish, but I would like to know if Evgenia Rudenko would like to start our next block or a bit later. Then please, who would like to start? Who would like to start this part of our discussion? Yes. Vasil Chorny, Leopolis. Information space media is since 2016, and we have also feedback part where our viewers can write their remarks and comments as to the materials included into the handbook. One of the reasons why our website was chosen because this website since 2024 has been in the list of recommended as one of the best initiatives in terms of media literacy, and one of the most successful publications was our comments on sociological studies that showed social studies regarding the ratings of politicians. Also, during the implementation of the project, we published the material that volunteer activities do not provide any privileges for entering the higher educational establishments, though this has been mentioned earlier. And regarding the dilemmas we met earlier and why we joined this project, during this press conference of Minister of Internal Affairs, he said that during his press conference, he declared that killer of Ms. Ferion was detained, though this is the violation of the innocence rule. Then the society is deeply interested in using the public funds by the local officials. Usually it is a common practice when the local officials do not respond promptly on this kind of requests from the public, and that's why we inform our readers that we cannot give a precise answer because we have not received the information from the local officials, and we have also included one of the examples of the political pressure on our editor-in-chief. In 2024, he wrote the information about the campaign on liberating the prisoners of war. It was on the central market of Lviv that was widely campaigned by the members of the Lviv City Council, and after this article was published, our editor-in-chief was subject to the political pressure and even attacks in pro-official media. So these are the results of our contribution. Who would like to continue? Maybe someone of the authors who work directly on the text of the handbook. Okay, hello everyone. I would like to present my general view about this work. For 3 years, of course, the media have been changing, and for the last years, these changes have been in geometrical progression, and the approach is in terms that refers to fact-checking, information verification, as well as dilemmas. For instance, in media, the people who work with the information, and even before, we had a lot of challenges and dilemmas. Now, for the last 3 years, these dilemmas and challenges have exacerbated, and we, living in wartime, facing the very significant challenges and stresses anyway, take care of how to work to improve our media literacy and the media literacy of the society, despite the difficult time we live in. I would like to thank to the people, to my co-authors, to the people who have actively involved in this discussion, because all of us, we are very busy people. We have a lot of work, daily work, but anyway, the colleagues understand how it is important to be improved, to improve the quality of our product, of what actually a Ukrainian consumes. So this is on one side, and on the other side, this handbook, we should remember about this. We have just separated, and the girls with whom we have moderated, I think they will not allow me to lie. This handbook is just about the fact that there are the dilemmas and challenges we have started working at, but they will exist always, and new dilemmas, new challenges will occur. So this could not be the finalized guidance how to act. We may say this is more a collection of situations, of recommendations, of advice, where and how we should move. But all of us, managers and journalists, everyone should remember that in each specific case we should use our personal experience. We should remember about the specific situation, and we should use our professional experience to know how to act in this or that situation, because topics are very sensitive. And in addition to guidance, to rules, handbooks, tables that we do have, in each situation each situation we should consider as a sensitive topic that could affect the opinion of the society and maybe on a specific person. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution into the development of the document, Tetyana Semiletko. I would like just to tell a few words about the editorial newsrooms that were involved in development of this handbook. Most of them were regional, and because we wanted to get information about challenges, about practices of local nature, and it was important for us to collect both management challenges as well as new rooms challenges. And for instance, we were added by the national hyperlocal media region. Olga represents it. They represent 9 regions. This is a kind of the aggregate online outlet, and they have introduced fact-checking and media literacy in their content policy. They have a specific chapter dedicated to this, and they update the editorial policies on a permanent basis. We have also Bakhmut in UAE, the first Zaporizhzhia channel, those who work and cover the activities of governmental authorities. They invest at frontline areas. They face a lot of challenges, and they have substantially contributed this handbook. We have also the Bucha City Media, Leopolis, Lviv, Galka, Ivano-Frankivsk online outlet that has also contributed a lot about the sociological studies, governmental activities. This is also TRK, teleradio company Kiev, as well as our regional and national media, who have shared their experience how to act when a shooting cream is under a direct attack of the enemy. And the colleagues have already establishing the activities in recruiting centers, how to cover the events that look like the violation of the human rights, but in order not to play to the Russian propaganda narratives about so-called Basification, about a forced mobilization, how to present it. These are our colleagues from Channel 5, 1+1, and Ukrainian Pravda. So we had also colleagues from Rivne. Yes, I think I have mentioned everybody. Anyway, at least 12 newsrooms have started already implementing the recommendations of this handbook in their practical work, and we are very pleased with this. Thank you, Tetyana. And now the work to Evgenia Romanyuk. I'm very great that I could add to creation of this handbook, and here I am speaking not only as a fact checker that every day faces a lot of issues related to verification of the information, but I'm also speaking as a lecturer in the sphere of journalism, because Ukrainian journalism are very responsible today, because any fact that takes place now in information media space could be used both to inform our society, but also used by the Russian propaganda in order to influence the people and polarize the Ukrainian society. And these challenges, I think that they are extreme. This is very correct that our CDM colleagues have first collected you as representatives of newsrooms, journalists working directly in the field with the specific topics, and we could collect those dilemmas, those situations that are faced by the professionals here and now, and based on these actual situations, real events, we have processed them. We have looked at the international experience, the all-national experience, the recommendations of the journalism ethics commissions, as well as the colleagues from international organizations, in order to show the solutions for these dilemmas. And frankly speaking, not only dilemmas have their solutions, because these are the nature of the dilemmas. And when, for instance, Mr. Chorny mentioned the issue of Ms. Faraon killer, at one hand, we know the innocence presumption. On the other hand, how to describe the press conference, how to deal. That's why it was very important for us to check this, comparing to the international ethic code of journalism, and this became the reason for a very interesting discussion who demonstrated that which other options exist to react on this kind of the situations. So I will also recommend this handbook. Here is also my colleague of the department, Andrew here. So we will recommend it to our journalism students, because our students, our journalism also face the same dilemmas. And I know definitely very often not practitioners but theoreticians give lectures on journalism departments, and they do not have, they're not experienced enough to advise the best solution for this or that situation. They just lack these skills, and they could not train the students how to deal with such situations. So the students do need a kind of algorithm, a kind of the guidance how to act. And as I said already, I will recommend it to my students, to my colleagues from other higher educational establishments, so that our journalism will remain at the high level, because I'm sure that now in Ukraine we have the journalists of the highest professional standard. Thank you, Alona. Okay, hello. I would like to consider this handbook in terms of technical point. Very often we speak about the content, but very often we forget about the distribution of this content and the challenges related to this. We can present a very nice media, a very nice website, but then we can make very simple mistakes that could cause very serious consequences for the media. That's why we have included a specific chapter in this handbook that may looks a bit different to the traditional dilemma media literacy format. So it refers to that transport, we may say, transport channels that we should use in order to deliver our content to the consumers. And here also we may face the dilemmas when some emotional, non-well thought through decisions are taken. And it's true that journalists are very busy, that they have to discuss and resolve right now, and once something new comes, and how to react. And in fact, this is that social engineering that is used by the enemies, by the those who try to show you something like as official messages. So they would like to involve you into considering a kind of the issue, for instance, the violation of the copyright, and this may result into the blockage of the account or some other issues that could have been avoided. And it's very important, I think, also to point out, to show very simple sometimes but very sad situations, that the issues that are caused by the fact that people were very tired, they could not, they didn't pay enough attention to the situation, and then later, as a result of this situation of the incorrect use, they have to ways, they have to use a lot of time in order to improve it. And I agree completely with the position that this handbook includes a lot of recommendations and advice to be considered as a kind of the literacy, also health treatment, I would like to say, not to take prepared decisions, to consider all those features that could be a signal of the malfunctions and maluse of the social networks, just to check, for instance, the websites. For instance, this is a reference to a real real page of an opinion leader, but in fact there is just some mark that would show that it's not an original, but this is a fake page. And we should well understand that in the information war, though it is invisible, this is the same war, and it is also focused on stealing the data, to steal the information resources. And we should remember this is not only physical war in the battlefield, but this is also the war in the media space. That's why to know the threats, to understand the basic rules, how to understand that this threat does exist, and how to process it, how to counteract this threat. This should be well understood by anyone who deals with the media sector, who works with the information, with the sensitive information, and they should also understand that the more sensitive topics, corruption topics, development topics they deal with, there are the risks that could be objects of this kind of information attacks are. That's why this specific chapter was included into the handbook, not only to consider the cases, but also to remember about the ways how this information could and should be transported to the consumer. Thank you, Igor. Andrew, will you continue? Thank you. Thank you, Taras. First of all, I would like to thank the colleagues for the opportunity to work in such a great team. It was great to share personal experience and to get experience of the colleagues. It's really a very valuable asset. And as to handbook, Ukrainska Pravda as online outlet will implement everything that has been developed for this time. We have already updated editorial policies according to the present-day requirements, and I think these present-day requirements is actually the major subject that I was thinking of when we were working at this handbook. Because, for instance, my colleagues and my colleagues with academic background, they won't allow me to lie that in academic journalistic sources there are not so many developments with what we are facing now. And maybe those who work a lot with this kind of academic, scientific journalism sources, just at one moment, a lot of issues, for instance, related to journalism ethics, they became out of date immediately, and nothing more has been developed. So Ukrainian media managers, Ukrainian editors, they have to work in this condition based on their own intuition, even without any idea how to respond to this or that pressure or this or those attacks. We have faced the same cases too. That's why it was very important to discuss this, to understand this, and at least to suggest a simple, easy algorithm how newsroom should act in this or that situation. For instance, either to make an open statement, or to deal internally, or address international journalistic organizations. Our idea was to discuss about critical communication in terms of media, because fortunately, or Unfortunately, Ukrainian media managers did not possess this experience, and now they have got it. And I think that in the future we will be sharing this experience with our foreign colleagues, because we communicate a lot with our foreign colleagues, and sometimes we see that many of our foreign colleagues are still rather in somewhere in dreams, having no clear understanding how a media could be pressed by the governmental bodies, and how a media could be just destroyed, could be eliminated by the governmental authorities, or even some internal pressure. So it's very important how to counteract this pressure. So I'm very thankful for this part of the handbook. I'm sure this handbook is very up to date, and it's very interesting to present this kind of content to the students. And maybe the only thing that we have failed to develop, not so much time was dedicated to discussions, to the role games. Not enough time was dedicated to this. We always lack the time for this. So that's why during our meetings we should dedicate more time to this kind of practical cases, and what kind of cyber threats exist, because we are more focused on the contents, of course. Thank you, Andrew. There are other questions. Let's start with questions. I see Teresa has a question.
As well, no? You wanted to say something, but so I have a couple of questions, and actually Andriy has responded to some of them. But my first question, and these are questions for everyone, is so UNESCO works globally, right? We have offices all around the world. What from this experience, and specifically from these cases, but also from your discussions, do you think is transferable globally? So maybe you can give us some examples, some elements that you think are not specifically only pertaining to Ukraine, but those are recommendations, dilemmas, experiences that should be shared with journalists all around the world. That's my first question. My second question is, we're thinking a lot about how journalists can transmit media literacy skills to their audience. And of course, the first good example is to be a good example yourself, right? To use proper fact checking, to check your own reaction to something before you share it, and so on. But how beyond that can journalists transmit media literacy skills to their audience? Maybe in some cases it would be a little bit boring writing articles about the topic of disinformation, but maybe there's other ways that journalists can transmit their own media literacy experiences to their audience and build their skills. And then finally, and Andriy touched upon this as well, my third question is what's missing from the handbook, or what was missing from the project? What should be looked at a little bit more in depth in your experience? So this is a question to anyone.
Maybe I will start the first. As to the technical threats, they are universal, because very often they first are tested in Ukraine and then they are used in Western countries. For instance, the example of Telegram. We have warned about Telegram because we saw its negative effect long before the full-scale invasion, and when the war started, Europe has experienced the effect of Telegram and how it all these supporters of various kinds of strange ideas, they are collected in Telegram, and I'm sure that this is kind of, as well as some other technical threats, so they can be used universal. As well as many other cases, unfortunately, we are a kind of laboratory for this kind of activities that after testing in Ukraine can be used in other countries. I would like to remind all you about all the questions. So which approaches, what in handbook can be transferred across globally? What could be used at global scale? The second question, how the journalists could share literacy with the audience by their own example, but what is beyond their personal experience, example, to write publications on this or some other interesting options, what has been missed, what could be added both into the handbook as well as in the project. These were those three questions. In terms of the second question, please, Margarita Dudka, Mahmoud in UAE, we included not only fact-checking, but also we wrote explanatory texts, how the disinformation worked on the internet, how other instruments that everyone face in the internet worked, and we in our text explained our readers, so the reader may go with us from the start to the end to understand how it worked. We left hyperlinks to all these issues, and the person could check after us. And as to the third question, actually this is what I wanted to say. When we started writing this handbook, the world was different. A lot has changed since. We see now neglect of fact-checking by the people who own one of the most well-known social network in the world. Such people post clear fakes in this kind of network. This cause concerns because people may think that if such a well-known person may do this, then I may do this too. And just yesterday I found out that how AI worked now with images, when half a year ago, when we started our handbook, the images created by AI, like 6 fingers, 3 legs, someone now in paid versions of ChatGPT, and soon it will be in free of charge. The images that will be created are almost like nature ones, and I was so surprised. That's why with some time past, we'll have to update our handbook, because the world is developing, and it is not always for good. Thank you. Please, Olga Bulkovska, Rayon Way. I would like to answer to some of the questions, but the most important is that our newsroom and I myself was involved in creating this handbook. I think it was a great honor for us and for me, because I've tried to work for all my life in line with these standards, and now I have understood that this work is very important. There are a lot of challenges, and in terms of challenges, maybe those who understand this the best, this handbook, I will prepare an email. I will distribute it to all the newsrooms. But what they are writing, how they present the information, when any local member of the local council becomes a great politician. For instance, a person with a psychology diploma interviews a person with amputation, and this is really the challenge. And I see also that how for for new political forces. New teams are being developed in Volhynia because these new political teams, they involve military men, they involve volunteers, and I may base just on Volyn experience. These people will be used by those puppet leaders as we had previously when all the Kharkiv treaties were signed. We have a lot already in the work, what has been described in the handbook. This is the work of recruiting center. For instance, last year it was informed that the person was running away from hospital, that he broke the leg, but the context and how he was treated by the enforcement bodies, the recruiting center. I compared the figures, the information of these about this poor 45 person who was running from recruiting center and the real information, and this is such a great gap in truth. In terms of the distribution, so they work, I informed about the fundraising. Then I immediately receive the information from the Monobank that the issue has appeared and no money can be raised. And I was informed that there is an issue. I wrote immediately to the Monobank support. So I faced a lot of this kind of situation. I was communicating with the people for this 10-15 minutes because I was afraid that the money collected already would be stolen. And for instance, I had a lot of examples when military men lost the money from their pay cards because they just used the fake, transferred money to the fake accounts. And what I am planning to do with the handbook, I have a very active account in Facebook. I have been invited, I was invited to the universities to give lectures free of charge, without any fees, without any payments, but I think it's much more important than to earn. I was invited to Lutsk City Council, and I would like also to be invited to the office of Lutsk Regional Administration, because most of fakes are posted by these officials. And now answering the questions of Teresa. Thanks to Internews project in March, I was in Georgia, and I was able to work in the newsroom. I think that I was aware of disinformation topic, but I opened a lot of new information for me. I read how disinformation came from the TVs to the minds of the people. They mentioned that if in the peak hours this or that information is presented, the topic of misinformation is relevant for all the countries. For instance, in terms of Georgia, so even the videos that were shot by our president in KVN or Quarter 95, and they are presented like to mock at our president, and because they are local people, they did not know when these videos were shot in fact. Then last year I was also in Berlin. I meant, and that was just the topic there, and I met a lot of people from Ukraine, those whom I knew personally, who played to Russian propaganda, and when I saw them with portraits of Zelensky with Ukrainian flags, I was sure that they were for Ukraine, but when I came close, I found out it was just for Russian propaganda. and also a similar situation in Warsaw. I read very strange slogans in English, in Polish, this is an allowed single man protest that people that there is a special war, and this is a Jewish war in Poland, in order to transform Ukraine into, just as well as Poland, into the natural resource deposits countries. And this was officially allowed for Poles to listen to all this misinformation. That's why it's very important to do the work when the foreign journalists can work in our newsrooms. If this kind of projects could be arranged so that they can work in our newsrooms, and these materials could be translated in order to spread as much as possible and as many people as possible to read them, because the misinformation is spread very easily, while the truth is completely different. And I think we should join our effort, because I have seen by my own eyes how it acts. As they say, nothing is so simple. And would like to invite our next comment. I have also a comment and a question. I'm impressed by your story. I wanted to mention how this idea to create this handbook created. And from the very beginning, it was mentioned that this should be practical advice, the advice that would be useful for the journalists. And at the time, we were not sure how many professionals would be involved. And we are very pleased and we are very thankful to our partners that we managed to assemble both national and regional media. It's true that the situation has been changing. A lot has changed since the start of the work, and I think that this handbook is a kind of start, and later it should be developed in different dimensions. For instance, for universities, it could be developed as a practical guidance for the students, taking into account that interesting chapter about AI that has been changing. I don't know to what extent it could be updated, because it's true that photos with 6 fingers is already out of date. Now, it's very good example are the topic of Reels on Instagram. Now it is relevant, but who knows what would be in 6 months. So I think the major point is that based on the idea of this handbook, and one of its greatest values is that it could be developed in different dimensions. For us, for instance, it's also important to see it to develop as a code of standard rules, surely also to be updated, to be later used both by practical journalists and by the students. But my question is, to what extent you think it is real in terms of all our publications? So these, our advice, these recommendations could work officially in the media space, or maybe they have been used already. Actually, this is the issue. I think we do need some stronger legal instruments to punish for spreading misinformation, for spreading fake titles. On some of the issues, I have addressed the Commission on Journalism Ethics. And my own Volin colleagues, they just laughed at me. And then you mentioned about students. Why? Actually, it is not only for students, it's actually for the lecturers, and it was even scandal not long ago in Volin. Even my colleagues, those who decided to use incorrect way, they shared the misinformation. And the students, actually, like the theory of coup d'etat, and what lecturer said, this is my page, and I can post what I want, and though it was blocked, she anyway said that she would tell what she wanted. And I tell students, you understand that you will not fight with your lecturers, but the only way is please screen their pages, and I will write about this, because this is the only way how to counteract these kind of people. I will just to add, because this is also about a very important subject, and students sometimes are more conscious regarding the misinformation, while lecturers do not do the fact check. And when you as a colleague come to them and explain them that this information is not fully verified, the people just block you, and in response, what should be done? In addition, it's very important to work with the students. When I started working with the students, there was no in Ukraine practically that media, when the media made a mistake, they should ask for excuse. And when last year I presented the statistics comparing misinformation with the number of excuses published by the mass media, the difference was impressive. So from the very beginning, we should teach our students to understand the significance of the information, to present how it should be done in the other way. And we like also to add how it could be implemented, how news rooms could translate this little media literacy. It's true that people will not verify the information. They will not check the facts. What could be done? We could do this by myself, but just saying this is false, it's not enough. And this is what the journalists can do. Understanding what the topic that is relevant today and now. Everything. And if the topic is so relevant, it's clearly some understanding will exist here, and this topic will be used by the Russian propaganda, taking into account also the topic of elections and the internal forces, in order to throw in any manipulative information, and understanding that this topic is not so well understood in the audience. It could be a very brief explanation. This could be memes, because humor is sometimes the strongest instrument against misinformation. Maybe it's also interesting to have some statistic data, some infographics about some other tools that could be counteracted all this misinformation. In addition to the basic principles described already by the journalism theoreticians, media are developing very quickly now, and we should be in line with this development in order to respond to all the threats. If, for instance, not far ago in Suja, the Russian blew up their station, and Russians wrote that was done by Ukrainians, and this was then this information was presented, the truth was presented by headquarters, and we did that immediately. Later this topic disappeared, and but that was such an hot topic for almost half a day. I don't know to what extent this will be in line with your media charter and the rules your outlet works with, but one of the best methods could be also to transform this as an episode. When we put this topic up to the episode, that this was done, then it is. But then we should should we say, to present, to give the real information and then transform it into humor. But in terms of topics of war, political topics, because the this threshold is very tiny. On one hand, not to transform into not when we lose our authority as journalism, not a propagandist. That's why I always, for my project, was looking for people with a good humor skills, because only with analytical data would not be enough. Why? Because why people go to the social networks? Why they read the social networks? Why they don't want to watch the actual stories? Because it's more interesting for the people when it's a lot of humor in them. And that was, for instance, a story about one of the paramilitary leaders of Donetsk People's Republic, how that person was sent to the hell and how it was presented in line with the journalistic standards. Thank you, Tetyana. I would like to continue this line of the discussion, how practically it could be integrated. Of course, if a consumer follows the news and you include the explanation of fakes, of misinformation, but it's true that we should think about a kind of explainer, about an very short video of opinion leader, of a famous speaker, that could be also presented in the network when this is a kind of pre-banking, because the governmental bodies that deal with strategic communications, they have warned that when Ukrainians retreat, there could be misinformations when the enemy informed that Ukrainians committed crimes against the civilians. So this should be taken into account. There should be the preliminary information, and this is the message that has been spread by the enemy. And maybe this would be also a kind of the mini formats. This could be also the quotations spread on the social networks. There could be the authors' shows with humor, of course. This is also very well accepted, and we have noted when this is live conversation with humor on YouTube. This could be also for different audiences, like the conversation of peers when somebody makes a mistake, but then he understands his mistake. Not the situation when wise expert has come to teach us. So I think this kind of enlightenment aspect, as when both explainers and live conversations, both in terms of content, if we come to contact from the format, I think we lack pre-banking when the Center for Strategic Communication or the Center for Counterating Disinformation. So when this is also could be used as a material for reason to work out of news format. Out of news, I could understand, but when you are on news and you are limited in time, you cannot have a lot of laugh on live, and practically all the news are about the war, and you just don't have time for explanations. So maybe integrate somehow, or just to warn that something, just pay attention to that. Yes, but in context of what I would like also to mention, when we speak about Suja, about the explosion, then what we can say, what media part do this, but not completely. This is to present a high quality context when the Russian troops retreat or our troops retreat, so the location of forces change. There will be charges of Ukrainian troops about some atrocities and explosions, and we can refer to this topic of Suja. We can also remind Kakhovka hydropower plant, when it was proved that it was blown up by the retreating Russian troops, because this was the only place where it could be blown up. But anyway, the Ukrainian troops were accused. So this has been already. We have seen this. This is just the change of the place, change of the fact, but in fact it's one and the same. And I think this is, when we speak about the news, this will be more logical. Yeah, I agree with you. With humor, with explainer, these are specific type of information. But regarding news, it could be only facts and context. Just a small comment. To what extent how fast it is out of date. So we mentioned the cybersecurity advice that sometimes we cannot inform you about the new elements. For instance, the new scheme is, this is private message, this is some offensive comment, that how bad you look, what is the first emotional reaction, who are you? And you start looking to the profile, and actually this is the thief, because bot reads your information, and then you can become an object of attack, either psychological or technological. And this is a new scheme that it has been very actively used. There are a lot of reports about it, and there is actually, this is a shadow of a girl with a number of figures, but it's very important that when you can see those 5 figures, you should think already that this is bot activity. When you see this, when somebody tries to offend you, you should stop. And that's why it's very important to those skills that should be in our conscience level. Maybe you cannot understand the skill completely because schemes are different, they are sometimes very complicated, but just not to make the first step that could take you into the difficult situation. This is the most important. I would like to also invite Iryna Subota. I would like also remind you about the questions raised by Teresa. Maybe someone would comment on it. The first question was, what of this document, or theoretically, or is transferable to other countries? So this document could become a global document. What is transferable, what is not transferable? The other questions raised were also how journalists could communicate literal media literacy. And I will start my answer from our handbook in general, and why we chosen this specific format, what its advantages and its relevance. So this is a practical handbook. The advantage is that we have used the cases, dilemmas that do exist in practice, those dilemmas, those challenges that have faced directly by Ukrainian journalists, Ukrainian newsrooms in their activities. We have also suggested the solutions. These solutions are also practical, that have been already considered by the experts, and those that are used in practice. Why we have chosen this format, the format of dilemmas. This is one of major formats, because all journalists who observe all the standards, all of them are familiar with international documents establishing journalism ethics, but dilemmas occur when theory meets the practice, because there are some specific context, there are some specific issues that should be taken into account. And correspondingly, the significance is that in this handbook you can see those dilemmas that occur in practice and solutions that are decisions that are taken by the newsrooms in practice, that is in line with international documents that establish journalism ethics. In terms of universal nature, which sections, which chapters could be used for global spreading of the handbook? First of all, I would like to mention that here, that we have collected here also the cases that now, for instance, this is the work in the wartime and in the condition of increased misinformation. So Ukrainian journalists face a lot of content, of information that should be processed very quickly, and they should understand, they should know at least the technologies, that they know at least the tools that could help improve, that could help process this information more promptly, to analyze visual content, because now in media space, when, for instance, we refer to one of the sections of this handbook, this is the verification of visual content. Now we have a lot of different videos in Ukrainian media space, and I'm not speaking now only by AI generated videos, but also videos that are also manipulated. These are fake, they are false, but they are still used and created using the traditional methods of manipulation that could be taken from the context. This could be staged videos. They could be cut out of the full information. And all these moments, they also make it complicated to verify the information, to publish the content, as well as the news. That's why in this handbook directly you can find these recommendations, which tools can be used in order to verify this visual content, which elements, which points should be taken into account when we watch a video, when we get a video, a photo, an image, to understand to what extent it is truthful and accurate. In addition, I would like to add that there are new technologies, AI, that is also improving on a permanent basis and creates better and better fake images, fake videos. And to this end, you should also know the tools that can be used in order to check whether your assumption of using AI to generate this image correct or not. This referring to the first question about the global nature of some parts of this handbook that can be used globally. In terms of how media teach the audience, their audience, media literacy, and what kind of media literacy can be observed in developing the content and in newsroom activity. If to sum up, I can point out several aspects. First of all, as it has been mentioned already, this is publication of by Ukrainian mass media the accurate information about the facts or the information of official sources about spreading of misinformation. So this is publishing of the official sources about the existence of misinformation in the media space as an instrument to warn the audience about the fakes in the media space. Then this, secondly, specifically after the full-scale invasion, the Ukrainian TV channels have started also widely inviting experts, fact-checkers, those who work with information security, so they may explain the situation to reveal misinformation, and this is also important element. Thirdly, there could be also moments when journalists add the context to the news published, specifically if it refers to spreading misinformation, and may add at the end a kind of media and information elements. For instance, the news is about a deep fake on social outlet. There could be also information what deep fake means and how it could be avoided. One more point, there should be also the platforms to teach the audience media literacy. One of the examples is broadcasting of all Ukrainian lesson of media literacy filter on Suspilne TV channel. This is also one of the elements to teach the audience media literacy as using this kind of platform, as well as creating enlightenment videos, enlightenment movies, telling in terms of Ukrainian context how Ukrainian propaganda works, how the myth in the Ukrainian society that existed here for a long time are revealed. So this is also a kind of enlightenment activities. So this pre-banking, the work with audience, including these media elements in developing the content by journalists for the audience. Thank you, Tetyana. I would like also to add to the question what we could propose our foreign colleagues, what kind of experience that they can use. I would also to point out the part how to avoid clickbaiting titles and links to these materials, because as our media space is so filled by the aggressor state, this is an enormous challenge for Ukrainian newsrooms. This has been mentioned by all. So the handbook has practical advice what should be done, what should not be done. If you want to observe the standards, but you at the same time you want to publish the material, inform about the news promptly, and we do have a lot of events, and these events occur frequently, and this is a tremendous challenge. And of course the challenge related to the social networks, because how to verify the information, how to fact check the videos posted in on social networks to see the context, who is the source of this video, who is its author, and rather often it happens with social networks and channels whose owner is unknown, how this is checked, as well as how it is attempted to manipulate journalists using misinformation or manipulative information. Of course, a lot of things change and should be updated, but I think these basic rules could be useful. And finally, at the end of our handbook, we have listed the contacts of organizations dealing with human rights. A lot of them need covering their activities because they deal with international advocacy, and they also need media attention to the cases of liberation of prisoners of war or speeding up the return of deported children. I think that this could be a kind of fixing support because these major organizations, you can address them and get experts' opinion. Thank you. I have also a counter question to our colleague from UNESCO, whether you have implemented the same projects in other countries. Why I'm asking? Because now Ukraine and Ukrainians in international media are not always presented as they are due to misunderstanding of Ukrainian context. For instance, just a few days ago, the situation in Donetsk, actually a person from Donetsk is under occupation for more than 10 years, but international media who earlier have mentioned occupied territories, they wrote Ukrainian Donetsk. This was in Amsterdam about a person who attacked someone. So if you have the similar projects abroad, supported by UNESCO, to involve Ukrainian experts to explain the context or what should not be done and how it should not be written about, and I think this will be very important, specifically in international dimension of adaptation of these recommendations. So who will answer on UNESCO?
So much. So UNESCO, as I said, does have projects on media information literacy all around the globe, and we've been having a large EU-funded project called Social Media for Peace, which was about social media's role in conflict, and it was rolled out in many different countries. Currently, closest to Ukraine, there is a project in Bosnia. And we also have projects in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia. I don't think that in those projects there's a specific component that provides opportunities for exchange. And I think that's really important, specifically as Ihor was saying, that, for example, we see how Ukraine is often the laboratory when it comes to disinformation. And I think Ukraine has been able to develop also some really robust tools to counteract disinformation that would be specifically in countries of the global south that are targeted by disinformation coming from the same actor. For example, in Latin America, in Asia, it's a really big problem, in Africa as well. So UNESCO is looking into facilitating those kinds of exchange. One opportunity that we're already using is Global Media Information Literacy Week. So we had some Ukrainian participants in the global event that took place last year in Jordan. So there were lots of journalists from the Arab region and some participants from Ukraine, but we want to make this more frequent. But yeah, having these kinds of projects where we bring Ukrainian journalists or Ukrainian media to other countries, I think that's a really good idea. And then regarding these, the applicability of the guidelines, UNESCO would like to work towards more standardized policies for media information literacy for newsrooms. And yeah, so this is why I was interested to hear from all of you what is applicable from this for an international audience. Thank you. And
I would like to just add, we have different kind of global courses, for instance, for, just a moment, цифрового Тобто цифрова грамотність для блогерів, і ми робили великий курс, and we have invited Ukrainian bloggers, and generally speaking, we are trying to involve more and more representatives of Ukrainian community, so we are working and will be thankful for your activity. Why I have asked? Because I am regarding adapting of these recommendations, because most part of this handbook, up to 80%, they can be used for international audience. So for instance, who can be called a killer before the court decision? For instance, then clickbait, the threshold between the clickbait and title. There are, in terms of materials, there are great dilemmas and great materials, and I think that most of these dilemmas are relevant for newsrooms in other countries. But if there is an opportunity to adapt these dilemmas and provide them to foreign colleagues, I think it would be great if we could recommend them how to call them correctly. We cannot call Russian propagandists journalists. If a person deals with propaganda and says that a journalist was killed, but it's not. It was a person who went to the front to shoot stage videos. For instance, when we speak about Donetsk, it should be called an occupied territory of Ukraine. And the same is the situation with Crimea. And these are those issues that we try to fight for internationally, and it's very difficult for us to do this here in Ukraine. But if we have opportunity to adapt these recommendations to international audience, it would be great. For instance, if we can provide just a dictionary for one list, or the list of short recommendations, I think the colleagues could help us. For instance, how should and how should not the Ukrainian context be presented. To continue the subject, my practical experience, after my visit with Georgia, I had friends in newsrooms in Georgia, so I may say that this handbook is published based on our bilateral experience. So if they do not understand some events taking place in Ukraine, they address me to help them to understand. And the same is situation regarding my understanding of news in Georgia. For instance, when I participated in Balance Symposium, I listened to one of the speeches. It's very important how to warn and prevent these challenges. Now, though the people know that Russia is an enemy via the great Russian culture, and now Georgian people are informed that without China, Georgia can't live, because Georgia is a great technological power. So our Georgian partners have a lot of statistic data, how much extent of information is thrown in via television, via social networks. How, for instance, now we are also working with Armenians. For instance, Armenians even we have much more questions regarding our Ukrainian context because they are much less familiar with Ukraine comparing to Georgia. But and definitely, and they ask me to explanation, and this is not just my responsibility as a journalist, but this is my responsibility as representative of Ukraine, and I have shared with them some of the advice and recommendations of our handbook, explaining them how to deal with them, taking into account the situation that we have faced. Maybe there is one who has not spoken yet and would like to speak. I am from Bucha city, and I represent our manager because he wasn't able to attend today's meeting, though he participated in the development of the handbook. The topic of media literacy is very important for us, but we more focused on this in our team, and I have written down some of the comments that we should focus on and communicate it to our audience. What we have been using already from the handbook. This is our work with the people who had a very dramatic experience. I think this topic would remain relevant for some more people, for some more years. We also check the sources. First of all, when we write about temporary occupied territories, not to support distributing the news, hype topics from unknown sources. And what I've noted that we have just ignored on them, and now I have written down that anyway we should point attention on them in order to explain that this is not an accurate information, and to explain it like this to our audience. What has become relevant for us is to point out the information generated by AI. We have not done this earlier, but recently, thanks to the handbook, we have started noting this and explaining that this is AI generated image. And one more point that we have paid attention to internally, this is our cybersecurity. We have strengthened all our resources, we renewed all our passwords, and have also taken into account that we should more inform our audience about to be careful regarding the fakes, even in terms of fake messages regarding, because I myself have got this fake message with offense from unknown profile. It's great that I have been taught already not to follow this false link. So thank everyone. We did appreciate our participation in this project. Maybe someone else have some words to say, or we can now come to closing remarks. We've had questions and answers already, so then I suggest to ask for short conclusions to make to Olesya, Kholopik. I would like to follow my conclusions with, again, my thanks to everyone who has participated in this several months work for developing the recommendations, for the ideas shared, how this handbook could be adapted internationally, and we will be considering this internally in the team, how this could be done in order to have the next stage in this handbook development, to work on it with journalists from other countries. I would like also to thank you for sharing your experience and how you have used already the advice, the knowledge of the handbook itself. You have presented them today, and we will be also thankful if you mention later, inform us what have you used in your everyday work, how your editorial policies have been updated, or what are you plan to do later. So now I would like to, I think, officially to close up our today's event, and for the closing remarks I will also to invite other organizers, first to Olga and then to Teresa. Thank you. It was very interesting to listen to their opinions, and I think that one of the major conclusions is that this is a living document, and the newsrooms are using it and uses it to work with the students. And now we have even outlined new prospects for the future development, including also international cooperation. I think it's also very valuable and insights and recommendations that we can that you have shared with us. So thanks to them for this cooperation. And I would like to ask also, thank also UNESCO for all the support provided. And I hope that we will continue meeting in this close circle and work more with media products. And Teresa, please, your closing remark.
Super interesting for me today. I'm also happy to meet all of you. I'm always a little bit concerned when we're working with the way that we're working with media in Ukraine, or the expectations that we have towards journalists in Ukraine, right? I feel like when I'm here, I realize that journalists are being trained on first aid. Journalists are being trained on how to not re-traumatize when they interview. They're being trained on how to fact check. They're being trained on international law. It's a job that seems to really comprehend all of the important jobs. And I'm always a little bit worried, because I know at the same time Ukrainian media is struggling economically on a very substantive level. Now, the last couple of months with funding withdrawal from some of the big donors, it's of course getting worse. So the expectations and the requirements are here, and sometimes the support, it seems like it's dwindling a little bit. But of course the role of media is just extremely important. And when we're looking at what I said in the beginning, how mis and disinformation is really one of the largest threats globally, the role of the media, or the importance of the media, is just very high. So just to say that I'm very, very grateful that that you have spent your time and given us your time and your considerations. So I really hope that this was primarily very useful for you, and that you've gotten something out of it that is practical. And thank you so much to them. Thank you so much for moderating today's event. To the UNESCO team, of course. We're a team of 4 or 5 people. So great. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming today as well, and for sharing some of your reflections with me. Thank you, or with us.
Thanks to everyone. I would like also to answer our interpreter, as also our photographer. And I wish everyone to have a nice day, and to continue our work on the media literacy topic. Thank you.